Sleep. Your body desperately needs it to function. It is the fundamental process of restoration, a nightly reset for the mind and body. During its deepest phases, memories are consolidated, tissues are repaired, and the energy needed for the following day is replenished. Without it, cognition falters, judgment becomes clouded. The simplest tasks transform into monumental challenges. For a soldier, whose very life depends on sharp reflexes and clear thought, sleep isn't a luxury. It's as vital as ammunition or rations. It is the invisible armor that protects against the psychological strain of combat. But on the Russian front, closing your eyes on the frozen ground could be a death sentence. Here, in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Eastern Front, the enemy wasn't just the one carrying a rifle. It was the landscape itself. The temperature, which could plummet to -40°C, was a relentless adversary. The wind, sweeping across the featureless steppe, was a physical force that stole warmth and hope with equal ferocity. In this environment, the biological imperative to sleep became a deadly trap. To surrender to exhaustion was to invite the cold to begin its lethal work. The cold didn't just bring discomfort, it brought a silent, creeping killer, hypothermia. It does not announce its arrival. It begins subtly, with uncontrollable shivering, the body's desperate final attempt to generate heat. As the core temperature continues to drop, the mind becomes its next victim. Confusion sets in, followed by apathy. A strange, dangerous sense of warmth can spread through the limbs, a neurological phantom that tricks the dying into a false sense of security. This is the cruel paradox of freezing to death. In the final moments, victims often feel warm, leading them to remove their clothing and hasten their own demise. The shivering stops, the heart rate slows, and consciousness quietly fades into a sleep from which there is no waking. To survive the night, soldiers had to become engineers of their own survival. Every night was a battle against the elements, a test of ingenuity and endurance. They learned the science of insulation, taught by the brutal lessons of the cold. They would dig into the snow, using the very thing that threatened them as a shield against the wind. They gathered pine boughs, not for comfort, but to create a vital layer of air between their bodies and the heat-sapping ground. They learned that staying dry was more important than staying warm, as moisture was a conductor that could drain body heat 25 times faster than air. They slept in shifts, one man always awake to watch for both the enemy and the insidious onset of frostbite in his comrades. They huddled together, sharing body heat in a desperate communion against the encroaching frost. Every calorie consumed, every layer of clothing, every carefully constructed shelter was a calculated move in a deadly chess match against nature itself. In the brutal, unforgiving winters of the Second World War, from the Ardennes forests to the vast Eastern Front, soldiers faced an enemy as deadly as any bullet or shell, the cold. It was a relentless, creeping adversary that seeped through clothing, stole strength from limbs, and clouded the mind. The gear they were issued, the standard issue uniforms, boots, and blankets, were the product of mass production and logistical compromise. They were designed for a generic conflict, not for the soul-crushing reality of -30 degrees, with wind that cut like a razor. For the men on the front lines, it quickly became clear, the official army kit was never enough. Survival became a matter of ingenuity. A desperate, creative battle waged with whatever could be found, scavenged, or repurposed. It was a curriculum taught not in training camps, but in the frozen mud of foxholes and the hushed stillness of snow-laden forests. This knowledge, passed from veteran to raw recruit, was a lifeline. It was the art of lining a trench with pine boughs not just for comfort, but to create a vital insulating barrier from the frozen earth. It was the science of layering scavenged cloth, of understanding how to manage the body's own heat and the ever-present danger of sweat, which could freeze and turn a uniform into a death shroud. What kept these men alive was a system of fieldcraft born of sheer necessity. This ad hoc system, this unwritten manual for staying alive, was built around a single, core truth. A truth learned the hardest way possible, through the tragic loss of comrades to frostbite, exposure, and the slow, silent killer of hypothermia. It's a foundational rule that governs our relationship with the cold, dictating every decision from where you shelter to what you wear. And it is a system built on one non-negotiable principle that is just as valid for a winter camper today as it was for a soldier in 1942. Today, we are armed with Gore-Tex, down insulation, and space-age materials. Our gear is lighter, warmer, and more waterproof than a soldier in the 1940s could have ever dreamed. But technology can fail. Zippers can break, waterproof membranes can be punctured, and batteries can die. When that happens, when you are stripped of your modern advantages, you are left with the same fundamental challenge: you, your body, and the cold. The timeless lessons learned in the crucible of war, about insulation, about shelter, about staying dry, are not obsolete. They are the bedrock of winter survival. Throughout this series, we will rediscover that lost knowledge. We will explore the techniques these soldiers used to endure the unendurable, and I will show you how to apply that same core principle to your own winter adventures, ensuring you not only survive, but thrive in the harshest of conditions. In the unforgiving calculus of winter warfare, the most lethal enemy is often not the one carrying a rifle. It is an opponent that is silent, relentless, and all-encompassing. It is the cold. For millions of soldiers from the Ardennes to the Eastern Front, survival was not just a matter of combat tactics, but a desperate, minute-by-minute battle against the elements. They learned, often through brutal experience, that the fundamental principles of survival were written not in military manuals, but in the unyielding laws of physics. And the first, most critical of these laws, the one that superseded all others when the temperature plummeted, was deceptively simple. Rule number 1, get off the ground. This isn't a suggestion, it's an absolute imperative. To understand why, you must understand a basic principle of thermodynamics: conduction. When two objects of different temperatures are in direct contact, heat energy naturally flows from the warmer object to the colder one until they reach equilibrium. In a survival scenario, you are the warm object, and the frozen ground beneath you? The Earth is a massive heat sink. Its sheer size and mass mean it can absorb an almost infinite amount of your body heat without its own temperature noticeably changing. Lying directly on snow or frozen soil is like opening a direct valve from your core to the planet. The process is silent, insidious, and far more efficient at stealing your warmth than the surrounding air. While you might shiver in the cold wind, the ground is actively pulling the heat from every point of contact. It will drain the life from you faster than the cold air. Every soldier, from the Wehrmacht to the Red Army, learned this first. On the Eastern Front, this lesson was taught with merciless finality. The first winter of the invasion saw hundreds of thousands of casualties, not from bullets, but from general winter. Soldiers who collapsed from exhaustion and lay directly on the snow were often found frozen solid. The veterans, the survivors, understood. They would use anything and everything to create a barrier. Piles of straw scavenged from a village, wooden planks from a destroyed building, a thick mattress of pine or spruce boughs. Even their own packs or a fallen comrade's greatcoat would be used not for cover but for insulation from below. This knowledge was paid for in blood and frostbite. Insulation beneath you is more important than insulation on top of you. This might seem counterintuitive. We are conditioned to think of staying warm as piling on blankets. But a blanket primarily protects you from convective heat loss, the heat carried away by the movement of cold air. It's important, but it's a defense against a less aggressive thief. The ground, through conduction, robs you of heat up to 25 times faster than still air of the same temperature. The goal isn't just to block the cold, it's to trap your own body's heat. The most effective way to do this is to create a layer of trapped, non-circulating air between you and the ground. This is the principle behind every sleeping pad and survival bed ever designed. The material itself is less important than its ability to create dead airspace. If you have to choose between a blanket and a bed of leaves, choose the bed every time. A 6-inch layer of compressed pine boughs, dry leaves, or even grasses creates thousands of tiny air pockets. This layer becomes your shield. It dramatically slows the conductive heat transfer, allowing your body's warmth to be contained around you, rather than being endlessly siphoned away. The blanket, placed on the frozen ground, would quickly become cold itself and offer almost no protection from conduction. But by lying on the natural bedding, you preserve your precious energy. You allow your body to rest and recover, instead of fighting a losing battle against the entire mass of the frozen earth. This single choice can be the difference between a night of restorative sleep and the onset of hypothermia. The difference between waking up to fight another day and not waking up at all.